There is something very bizarre, very strange happening surrounding the incident that took place on Monday 13th February along Kaunda Street in the Nairobi CBD, involving a name that is on every Kenyan's lips right now. The name of whistleblower Lilian Waithera. Now, when the police start issuing very strange statements that cannot be understood, when you have an incident that is very difficult to explain, even when you see it on CCTV footage, it doesn't make sense. When you put all that together, this thing is just a mystery within a mystery. Welcome to my show today. A show I know many of you have been waiting for, because I've received dozens of requests to do something on Lilian Waithera, whistleblower, great Kenyan, a Kenyan who did the right thing and paid for it with her life. May her soul continue resting in peace. Karibu sana, and let's get down to business. I assure you, despite the many mysteries surrounding this Lilian Waithera demise, I assure you that by the end of the show today, it will be very clear what is going on here. That one I promise you. Right, let's get on with it. Now, we know that the incident happened on Monday the 13th February at exactly 13 minutes and 3 seconds after 5 p.m. Oh yes, we have the exact time, courtesy of CCTV footage. Now, based on the very conclusive post-mortem, we know that the late Lilian Waithera passed on from a bullet that went through her collarbone and lodged in her left lung. Now, that is the easy part, because there's a huge mystery here. You see, when somebody takes a bullet on their collarbone, it'll put them down. It is very highly unlikely, even if you're fictional John Rambo, to stay on your feet, let alone a 46-year-old mother of two, working as a civil servant. Mystery number two, and I need to give you some information first. A vast majority of the cases of people who pass on from being shot, what normally does them in is the bleeding. Bleeding is the major problem. Indeed, if you end up in a case where somebody has been shot, your biggest concern should be trying to slow down the bleeding. Because if you can manage to do so, it is very likely you'll save somebody's life. And it is easy to understand why bleeding is the major issue here. Because you see, this thing ruptures arteries and veins, opens them up. Therefore a lot of bleeding occurs. And usually a lot of that blood will come from the point of entry of the bullet. But in the case of Lilian Waithera, multiple eyewitnesses tell us that the bleeding was from the mouth and the nose. Which actually makes sense, because if a bullet ruptures your lungs, that's what's bound to happen. So to sum up the mystery here, we have a situation here where this thing entered like a dart. You know, the dart which are normally used to make animals go to sleep? It entered like that, but behaved and did the damage of an ordinary bullet. How did that happen? That's the mystery. Now, let me give you a quick tip while we're here. We live at a time on this world when there's a lot of technology, a lot of technological breakthroughs that are being used that are still not in the public domain. That is, they are not widely known. Okay, let me just leave it at that. So, let's recreate the final couple of minutes of the life of Lilian Waithera. She's walking along the streets. The streets are crowded. Counter Street, one of the most secure streets in Nairobi CBD. There are CCTV cameras all over the place. And then at exactly 13 minutes past 5 and 3 seconds, she staggers towards her left shoulder. We're assuming that's the time she took the impact of this thing. But she stays on her feet. And walks on her own 2 feet. And is even able to talk, because she tells her colleague, who she was walking along with, that she should quickly call an ambulance. And then as she's led away from the road, the sidewalk, she collapses. Now eyewitnesses say that they didn't see any blood on her clothes. None at all. The blood they saw was oozing out of her mouth and her nose. So they wondered, what's wrong with this lady? What is she suffering from? Now, her colleague Mr. Cheng must have observed the moment of impact, and the late Waithera must have made some noise. Just imagine sudden impact. Something like that. And therefore what she was telling people is, please get an ambulance. My friend has been hit. Those are the words she used. Now this is important because of what happens after this. The police who handle this case insist that it was a sudden death, most likely a heart attack. Now that is strange, because under normal circumstances the police would have been hesitant, even in the statement they released to the press, in giving out a possible cause of death. And even stranger, they give a cause of death that completely ignores what her colleague saw and what her colleague told them. Her colleague was with her when all this was unfolding. And so the story spreads quickly in the media that there was this lady on Counter Street who works for the NHIF who just suddenly collapsed and passed on. That is the story that sticks on the minds of Kenyans. But that's not the end of the strange things that happen. After the post-mortem conclusively reveals that there was a bullet lodged in the lungs of Miss Waithera, the police have today, a few hours ago, released a statement ruling out assassination. And the reason they give for their conclusion is not a reason, because they say they have come to this conclusion as a result of reviewing statements from eyewitnesses, and also as a result of reviewing and analyzing the CCTV footage showing Lilian Waithera's last moments. Now, it is impossible, reviewing those 2 factors which we have touched on our show so far, it is impossible reviewing these 2 aspects and coming to the conclusion that the police came to. So why would they want to insist on such a conclusion? And then the NHIF, Waithera's employers, also released a statement, and they urge Kenyans to stop speculating and let investigative organs, those involved, conclude the investigation on this matter. They of course forgot to say, no stone will be left unturned. Does that statement sound familiar? Oh yes, we heard it after the late Tomboya left us. We heard it after the late Dr. John Robert Ouko left us. We heard it after J.M. Kariuki, the very popular Nyandarua North legislator, left us. And you know, a lot of times these statements were coming from the mouth of a man called Professor George Saitoti, who is a former vice president of our country. And as fate would have it, the same George Saitoti passed on in very strange, mysterious circumstances that are yet to be explained to date. And somebody else said the exact words he himself would have said. What? You know, people say calm as a beach. I think that is absolutely true. But then, in all this drama, the drama is heightened with a bombshell of a statement from Human Rights Watch. I believe you can see that statement on your screens right now. They don't mince words. They call this an assassination. And they refer to Mrs. Waithera Gadenya as a whistleblower at the NHIF. Now, in my opinion, our security agencies, the police, and even the NHIF failed Mrs. Waithera Gadenya. Why? Because whistleblowers are usually protected. You don't leave a whistleblower walking around on the streets of Nairobi. That is low-hanging fruit. Sorry to use that expression. But it describes this situation perfectly. That is low-hanging fruit for bad people whom she has blown the whistle against. And powerful people at that. Because don't focus on individuals. Focus on that word that we use a lot in Kenya, although most of us don't understand exactly what it means. Cartels. Yeah, most of these corruption deals are not done by individuals. They are organized and executed by cartels who use people to execute what they want to do. These are very powerful, ruthless people. A whistleblower against any corruption deal must be protected to the hilt. But in this unfortunate case, we had a whistleblower walking the streets. Even when there were developments over this case, which had put a former CEO of the NHIF on trial, along with 17 other people. And even as these developments were taking place, there was no special protection for the whistleblower. She was walking the streets of Nairobi. In a move that has become very normal these days and very frequent, the Director of Public Prosecutions withdrew his case against the former CEO of the NHIF, and he became a free man. And that's not all. He was reappointed by Ruto. What? So all these things are happening. Nobody's thinking about the whistleblower. Or is it nobody wants to think about the whistleblower? Which of those two is it? Najua kizungu ilikuja na meli, but those two statements are different, believe it or not. So the way Human Rights Watch are talking, they are sure they've done the investigations, and this is a reputable human rights organization, with a track record across the globe. Okay, so whatever they say, they have to be very careful. They have a reputation to guard, so that tomorrow, when there is an issue, people will pay attention. People will take them seriously. They can't afford to do things juju, washy-washy, wishy-washy, so that somebody can challenge them. So the Human Rights Watch are sure of what happened here. But then our local authorities in Kenya are telling us, no, Wait for us to investigate. This was not an assassination. Don't start speculating, etc., etc. And of course we know, because when you know, you know. We know that no stone will be left unturned, don't we? Just like no stone was left untouched in so many other cases before this Waithera case. How sad. Here we have a situation of a mother who has left 2 children. As I speak, we have 2 children who don't have a mother. For what? For money? God have mercy. We have a gallant and brave Kenyan woman who did the right thing. And instead of getting a national award, instead of being recognized, what happened to her? She lost her life. It can't get any sadder than that. May the good Lord give peace to the family of the deceased. Peace and comfort. The peace of the Lord that passes all understanding. May the Lord give them that. And may the Lord give the departed, Mary Lilian Waithera Gathenya, justice. Yeah? And may her soul continue to rest in peace. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.